Our son Matt is the oldest, 38. He was diagnosed with autism and when he was 16 and a half, actually.
Grace was diagnosed with Asperger's at the time when she was 10 years old.
Dawson was our firstborn child, so we were living in a small apartment, just kind of getting our family going, I guess, right? And I think the diagnosis occurred when we first tried him in daycare. And I think some of the daycare teachers mentioned that he was not playing with the other kids, really. He was just kind of off doing his own thing. And they noticed certain tendencies that they gave us a bit of a heads up.
You would watch him on the playground and he just didn't know how to fit in.
I think pre-diagnosis with Grace, there were just a lot of uncertainties and unknowns and confusion about, why is this so difficult? Why isn't our daughter fitting in at school?
There is some autism funding that goes up to the age of 19. Then you get a lot of supports covered, not everything. It's only up to $6,000 a year. But that $6,000 a year, most parents can have go pretty far. But just to show you that $6,000 a year doesn't even cover the main supports.
If your family is well off enough that they can hire the supports that their children need, then their children as young adults and adults will get the supports they need to continue on and function. But that's a very select few because the resources out there that are fee-for-service are quite expensive.
We deal with this somewhat in our seniors, where we're, expecting the family to take on things that the family are not trained in dealing with.
But once they hit the magic age of being out of school, there's nothing. So you kind of do that drop off of a cliff. There's no place to go. There's no place to get help.
When your child is young, you get a lot of opportunities and support. The ministry gives you funds that you can spend however you see fit, so you can access a number of different things, and we tried a bunch of different things. Some were helpful, some were not really, but it always seemed like there were options. And then as your child approaches the age of 19, you realize that it's all going to come to an end, and we realized that while we were having some success in getting Grace through school, in the big world, that's really the least of your challenges. There are other things that are bigger and harder.
The University of Calgary did a study in 2014 that showed that even in high-functioning Asperger's or PDD-NOS would cost anywhere from just under $37,000 a year, and that's just for caregiver supports. That's not for any psychiatric, any mental health, any employment supports, any emotional supports whatsoever, any social supports in integrating into society. That is just caregiver.
What I find is a lot of families end up really struggling when they don't have the financial means to provide the supports their children need. And their children are left kind of hanging, unable to find work or keep work. Some have with the mental health conditions like anxiety are sometimes not even able to leave their house or their room. And families are struggling with their children that may want to have things in their lives like jobs and relationships and families, and not able to have that happen because the supports to teach them what they need to know to make that happen aren't there. And families can teach what families can teach. They teach a lot, but there are things that sometimes you need to have extra support in to teach.
There is, hardly any practitioners that will deal with that age group because there is no funding. There is no funding, they have to go private, they can't really afford to charge the family can't pay. It's easier to go where the funding is.
I found any help that we've gotten, is always stuff that we've had to find on our own, that you've maybe heard through blips of news pieces or something like that. It's even focusability was something that we found on our own.
It's something that you're born with, and it does not go away. You can work with it to help people gain more skills and tools, but the autism is a part of who they are. It's a developmental delay. It means you're going to mature later, which means, when you hit the magic age of 19 in BC, you're not necessarily going to be as capable as the typical 19-year-old. And let's face it, most 19-year-olds aren't typical to be, fully independent out on their own anyways. But when you have something like autism, which is a developmental delay, and you learn and grow at a slower pace in some ways, you're even less ready to be thrown out there. So a lot of families end up being very stressed, very distressed, struggling with their folks on the spectrum who underachieve because they don't have the supports, or withdraw from the world because it's too much. And that's a lot where the mental health conditions come in, when the people withdraw and are anxious and it's not dealt with. And this is kind of where I come in. It's very sad to see people that are trapped in their rooms and unable to even go to the grocery store and buy themselves, milk and eggs.
I'd say take heart, right? Take heart for one. It's okay. It's a difficult time. It's a difficult situation, but there are lots of supports out there. And really, it just means you get to spend more time with your child, right? And in that way, man, it's such a blessing.
He was my go-to person whenever I was just losing it. Because he was the one that you could talk to, and he would say, but maybe you're not handling it. Maybe you should handle it this way. Or have you ever thought about this? Because there's not a lot of emotion with him.
The other piece that is beautiful is to let your child teach you some awesome life lessons. I think she has taught me more than I could have learned. Now I'm gonna cry. That I could have ever learned on my own, and that's beautiful.
Soon we'll be bringing a Launch into Life program. That's the teen program that we do. It's for all levels of autism, and basically it helps parents to prepare. I recommend that they start this anywhere from 13 to 16 years old, so that they can start to get a handle on what's coming up with that cliff. How do I prepare for that cliff? It's really difficult. Parents, I know that they're struggling to just get to that graduation, okay? Get through high school, because you've got a kid that doesn't fit in, okay? And that's a tough thing for the parent, for the kid in high school, for everyone involved, for the teachers. A kid that doesn't fit in struggles in school. So you're just trying to get to that grade 12 level. Okay, get to that piece of paper, that graduation, that dogwood, that evergreen, whatever it is, so that you can say, we're done. But you're not done. Now you're about to fall off a cliff of lack of supports. So between 16 and 18, 19, start investigating, start looking into what's available and what's not. And that includes for those that are on the low functioning, because there's a big change that happens with CLBC out of high school for the lower functioning as well. So I would say to them, don't worry. Ask your school district. Do we have a transition program? Do we have a launch program for our parents to be able to be aware of what's the next step? And how do we prepare now for what that next step is? And for the parents of adults, hang in there, you're doing great. The supports will come, don't stop looking. The same way you didn't give up on finding the diagnosis, don't give up on finding the supports for life. They will come, they are coming now.